Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 premiere of Bosch Legacy. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So let's go ahead and talk about the fact that the opening to this episode is a double whammy. Because, well, first and foremost, even before we got to the recap, it opens with the message at the beginning, and loving memory to Annie Wersching and Lance Reddick, who obviously sadly both passed this year. I was like, because usually that stuff is usually saved for the end of the episode. I don't know why it didn't even cross my mind that, of course, it would be here, but it's still just kind of like rough to see. And then you put that in conjunction with the beginning of the episode where it's like, oh, we see Matt, because like you have that tension the entire time where it's just like, oh, you just don't know when he's going to grab Maddie, and then you see the scene where he's in the closet where you're just like, oh god, yeah, the tension of that, and then just like the depressing nature of what the scene is. And obviously Maddie, takes after her mom and her dad, and she puts up a fight, but it's just like, yeah, he chloroforms her and knocks her out, just like, oh god. And then we cut to Harry just staring at the scene, because I didn't even think about this in the season 1 finale when it happened, but obviously this is all going to hit Harry on multiple fronts. I mean, even Mank said it himself. It's like, that family's kind of cursed or something, don't you think? It's like they are just magnets for just crap. And it's like, I mean, once again, it's like Harry lost his mom under the circumstances. Then Eleanor, now Maddie. Like, Maddie's the only family he's got left in this world. And if she, it's just, I mean, it's already going to be hard enough losing your, regardless of there's any other circumstance in your life, it's your daughter. Like, of course that's going to be rough, but you consider everything else you've lost in your life, and especially considering it's not like, oh, I lost my mom to, cancer or whatever, or Eleanor to cancer. It's like, nope, both were murdered, so it's like crime has a way of finding its way to you and taking away the people that you care about most. So it really strikes a chord with Harry, because I'd even make even more of a direct parallel specifically to his mom's circumstance. It's not a 1-to-1, but I would put it more directly in a comparison to what happened with his mom. It almost probably, I mean, especially because there is the direct parallel of, I mean, Eleanor's case motivated him just as much too, but I feel, I think that's just, it's a triple parallel really, but it's just, in my head, I directly care, because obviously his mom's case was so unsolved for so long that it was his main motivation. It fueled him for so long, and obviously that, it's now being fueled towards Maddie. I mean, there's also this sad aspect of, especially later on when he was talking to, Vasquez, her partner, and she's like, I told her to kind of let that particular unit handle it. And it's like, I should have done more, but it's like, no, you don't put this on yourself, because she's basically saying right, Maddie wouldn't kind of let this go, and she's like, would you? And Bosch is like, probably not. I'm sure that eats away at him a little bit, that Maddie is him, his sickness of not being able to and I'm sure even he would look at it's a good and a positive thing of not being able to let go. That has always made him the good investigator he is, because he always tries to get to the truth. He tries to get justice for people. But the problem is, it is kind of a sickness of always seeking out the truth and not wanting to give up. And let's not call it a sickness. Let's just call it what it is, a double-edged sword. And it's like, yeah, pass that on to my daughter. She's a lot more like me than I'd want her to be. So it's got to sting just that much more for Harry, that it's like, if my daughter, I'm the one that especially because it's like, right, I okayed her going into police. I knew the dangers and the risk, but it's still, because I experienced them every day, but it's just, you worry and stuff like that, and it doesn't soften the blow anything. You can't just be like, oh, I expect it, because you've seen time and time again, people in a similar situation as you, being a cop who has a child on the field who ends up, getting caught up in something or potentially dying. But also Harry being who he is, he's always been that person who crossed the lines trying to get to the truth. And so obviously with his daughter involved, he's going to push that even more. And obviously everyone is so understanding, but it's still the thing of, especially in Jerry's case, he knows who Harry is. He knows the lines that Harry has kind of crossed, but we also know that Harry knows about the lines that Jerry has crossed. And so it's this kind of thing where Jerry's like, right, I'm trying to handle this delicately, but also at the same time, because I know you better than anyone else. but also you know me better. So who am I to judge past, aspersions upon you, when it's like I've shown in the past that I'm willing to kind of do the same thing in some regards too. So it's like it's this complicated thing. So I mean, obviously they let him sit in during the conversation when Jerry and Bennett were talking to their captain. Was it RHD? But of RHD, but yeah, it's like Harry's not supposed to be anywhere near this, so they're like not getting him involved, to the point he's calling in all the favors, calling in anyone he knows in a high enough position to help him. Like, hey, you know anything? I need some information on this case. And it's like he's calling in all the favors, all the connections, but no one can help him. Only person that helps him out is Mank. Mank is like, yo, if I hear anything, I'll let you know. So that's the only thing he can really count on right now. Obviously, the guy from the morgue, what was it? Ernie called him up to be like, we found someone that might match your daughter. Hopefully it's not her. Luckily, it's not. But the question, I'm curious. Maybe it's just like, hey, it's just a Jane Doe. It's just for the plot of this story in that regard. But I'm also curious, are we going to find out that Jane Doe has like significance? Because I think it's interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that the only thing they really brought over in the recap, they didn't recap like a lot of the main overarching story for last season, which, to be fair, makes a lot of sense. Unless there are elements to it that are carrying over this season, which there wouldn't be. Typically aren't. There's only certain storyline elements that carry over character-wise for recurring characters into the new season. But it was just kind of, because it's been a while since I've seen a recap of Bosch. So I was like, did the original show do that too? I thought they recapped like a lot of the mystery element, like even the seasonal story, but it's like everything they recapped was just around Maddie's investigation into this serial rapist. And I'm like, I'm trying to remember in Bosch, like, did they ever recap? Like, I'm pretty sure they recapped even, like, the seasonal storyline of, like, the overarching case. But for them not to include that at all, I guess that's just also, once again, show that it has absolutely no significance, that this is all revolving around Maddie and everything, so... It's not too often that we really get to see Harry be vulnerable, because a lot of times he tries to keep that bottled up because it's like the job, I got to put that aside. Like you don't, it's not often you get to see him cry, for him to break down outside after he like found out, okay, it wasn't Maddie's body. It was this cry of relief, but also it's just, once again, the unknown. It's like sometimes knowing is best, but even then that's not always the case. And now it's like, right, I'm back to square one. Okay, my daughter's out there. Maybe, I don't know. So there's a sigh of relief, but there's also like a, oh my God, for a second I thought it might actually be her, and your heart sinking, and that turmoil you're caught between relief and sadness all mixed together, just an amalgamation of feelings you're feeling all at once. And just to him kind of break down like that, we never really get to see Harry like so vulnerable. But luckily Harry's got a lot of people in his corner, so he's able to call up Mo, he's able to call up Chandler, because she's actually involved in this, because when she last went to see Maddie face to face was the day before she went missing, before she got kidnapped, and she ended up seeing the guy who did it. And obviously this ends up connecting them to was the dude's name Dockweller, which Bennett and Jerry did stop by his house, because Jerry had talked to Vasquez about like some of the people that they had interviewed and stuff about it, but stopped by his house, saw some cigarettes, so Jerry took note of it, but the bastard rode up just when they were getting in the car and about to leave. You're like, oh, and he drives on by and it's like, like, it doesn't matter. Even if they hadn't been in a car, if he saw a police car in the driveway, he would have known to do the same thing. And so it's like, if he had gotten there sooner, if he had gotten home before they did, like he wouldn't have seen them coming. I mean, he would have been able to probably cover his bases a little bit, because they wouldn't have been able to suspect him at the time, but still. It's just, of course that was going to happen. We also find out he has a connection with the cops, because he calls up his buddy, like, oh, yeah. So, what evidence y'all got? And I'm like, for one, I was like, well, we know, because I was like, no, because he's not a reporter. So I was like, why is that cop giving him information? Which I was like, is he an ex-cop or something? Because that was the initial thought of like, well, how would a person know that Maddie was investigated? As well, we saw last season, they even showed in recap, he was looking at articles because he was doing research on her, but that might have just been a situation of he caught notice of who she was. I mean, maybe that, because it's like, maybe he isn't a cop, maybe he owned, because his cop buddy is telling him stuff, and it's like, well, I'm a city inspector, so like I said, maybe he does have a cop pass, but you'd think that would have come up before now, but maybe it hasn't come up because they haven't really done a deep enough dive into Doc Weller to really, for that to come up, but maybe it is a situation of that. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing there, but like at the very least, maybe all he's getting all his information from his buddy, because his buddy's like, "Hey, you work in that area. I want you to be on the lookout for stuff. So I'm feeding you more information than I should be telling you. Like, oh, they got your DNA, which I'm sure all that information he got this episode is what motivated him to do what he did later on, which was turn himself in, because Chandler ended up giving a composite sketch of the guy. And they end up looking at it, and Jerry like kind of looked at the picture and then like looked at the video footage of Maddie when she ended up talking to Doc Weller, and ended up putting two and two together. So, but the guy, well, Harry got to the place first, which he was already there. He was taking a bath. He was suited up. I was like, oh boy. And he's got a gun, and Harry's got a gun. I was like, please don't kill him, Harry. Because Harry knows not to kill him, but it's like Harry might not have a choice. I was like, please, because if you end up killing this guy, there's no chance of you finding Maddie. But he ended up getting away, and then the bastard showed up at a police station and turned himself in. Because I was like, what is he playing at? At first I was like, oh, is this bastard going to report Harry just to kind of buy himself more time? I mean, once again, different precincts and stuff probably don't communicate, because Jerry and Bennett and them are the only ones who knew at the time. Like, yo, this is the guy we're looking for. Like, not everyone at the station was being informed about this particular thing. Like, no one expects the suspect to literally show up and be like, yeah. And now he wants to play hardball because he's trying to waste enough time to secure, I guess, himself a deal. Like, either he wants to do this just because he's a psychopath. So it could just be like, oh, I'm doing this just because I get off on the fact is I'm going to be hurting. Because that was also the thing of like, why did he break his thing? Like, he went after Maddie, like, why specific her, and why is he keeping her? Because he does what he does to the victims and leaves them. But now he broke pattern and he took Maddie. Because maybe it's some twisted thing of like, once again, we know that he keeps himself involved in investigation, which sometimes, suspects in a crime will do that just to see how far the investigation goes. So maybe it's kind of a twisted perversion on that, where he's not even now being like, oh yeah, I'm part of it now, and you can't really do anything about it. So maybe he's trying to secure an immunity deal. Like, hey, you don't get me for all the stuff I've done, I'll tell you where Maddie is. You might want to hurry too, because she's running out of time. And it's like the moment he was saying that too, it's like, because when he was cleaning out his truck, he didn't have Maddie with him, and you're like, yeah, he buried her. He was already in a desert area. He also like drugged her like to make sure she stayed. So it's like, man, if only she could have gotten that syringe and stabbed it into him instead. But it's like, oh, the bastard. But it's like, yeah, that's the like rub of it all. The sad rub is that like, this is a catch-22 of being buried. Because while you're buried, you're panicking, understandably. But the more you're panicking, the more you're losing your oxygen. So like Maddie, I mean, eventually I think she will calm down, because she'll probably just take all the training she has and everything she knows. I mean, her having your parents who are in law enforcement, like, it's probably, and a lot of that core of who they are is going to play a role in you, and you're going to eventually figure it out, but it's still a thing of it's a taking clock to get to Maddie. Other than like an immunity deal for the crimes he committed, I don't see what else he's, other than like, oh, I'm enjoying making you squirm. Like, I don't see, not unless we end up finding out there's some connection between him and Harry, but I don't see that being the case. It seems like this is purely about Maddie. I'm saying, but maybe it's like, once again, he is a rapist. Like, he gets off on the power he has over people, specifically the women he attacks. So it's like, right, not only do I have this power over Maddie, I also have this power over you, Harry, because you and the cops are going to be squirming to do what I want you to do. And like I said, I don't know if it's just even bothering about an immunity deal, or whether it's just purely for the thrill of like, making you squirt. I don't know. I don't see any other way around it. So, like I said, I'm leaning more towards he's trying to strike an immunity deal. The fact is, Harry broke into his house. It's not going to go, like, without issue. Because, I mean, that's the point they kept stressing this entire episode, too. Harry, we need to go by the book. The last thing we want is his lawyer to be able to kind of kick some of this, or even all of it, simply because we didn't go by the book with this, you know? So, once again, Harry's not in the mood to even care. I didn't even talk about the earlier in the episode when he was talking to Mo and he wasn't paying attention. There's a red light, almost crashed into like an 18-wheeler. Almost crashed into him. Not even an 18-wheeler. Might have just been like it was a big truck or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like that was just, he's not thinking clearly. Understandably, no one would be. And that's a problem. Like, Harry can't shut off that detective brain in him, but also the father brain. It's like both are active at the same time rather than one that, you know, rather than it being one at a time, both are being activated at the same time, driving him to be very reckless, understandably. Once again, Harry, like I said, Harry bounces that line and blurs those lines, not in an extremely bad way, but in a way where you're like, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass, Harry, because it has time and time again. So, pretty rough way to start off the season. Obviously, there were three other episodes released, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see more specifically, where the next episode takes us. Going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.